Hey there, welcome. Thank you for watching. It's Sam with another live video update for you. Less of an update today, more of a book review. I'll get to that in a moment. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. This will hopefully be a quicker one, not like half an hour. Hopefully, like 15-ish minutes, if that. Um, a good writer must always be a good reader, or must also be a good reader. So each month, I'm reading at least one fiction book. My goal has been one fiction and one nonfiction for the past several months, and I've been mostly staying consistent with that. The nonfiction I'm not talking about as much here because my author page is mostly focused on fiction writing, but my one fiction book of the month, I've been reviewing it just to kind of one talk about literature and talk about things we're reading, but also kind of apply things from the book I've read to my writing and your writing. So this month's read was, drumroll please, Neuromancer by William Gibson. Okay, if you've heard of it, you may know it's one of the forerunners of the cyberpunk genre. Um, I'm not really, I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm not really familiar with cyberpunk as a whole genre, but I think I had this copy. I've had it for a few years. I forget where I got it. I must have won it in a contest somewhere. Maybe Barnes and Noble was doing like a sci-fi day and they had a contest. I don't remember, but the back says raffle title not for sale. So I know I got it for free somehow, like in a contest some years ago. And I have a friend who is really into this, or actually, or a friend in grad school. Well, actually, not just in grad school. A friend who I went to grad school with, but he and his wife are still pretty close to me and my wife. My one friend um, not only likes this author a lot, but I think did his master's thesis on Gibson and I believe Neuromancer specifically, or at least this author wrote the specific work. So I was like, okay, it's up there in one of the I guess contemporary sci-fi halls of fame, and I have at least one friend who's into it. And I mean, these days, part of at least what's driving me to read certain books over others is do I have friends I can talk to them about? Um, and so I decided to give it a shot. So let me give you my quick assessment of things I liked, things I didn't like so much. I read it this past October, finished it like within a week ago or something like that. Um, this is a book I'm going to have to read more than once to fully get into or to fully understand. I feel like that's often the case when I get introduced to a whole new world. I mean, a whole new world. No, like a new sci-fi or fantasy world where the rules are different and such. Like Dune, I read for the first time last year. Like overall, gonna have to read it again in order to fully understand a lot of this stuff. It's one of those things where if you're new to the world, if you don't get things the first time, like I often don't, you may not understand everything that's going on. You may have some blind spots or miss some details. So I read this whole thing. I know I missed some stuff. I'm sure I did. There are parts where I was confused, parts where I was not sure what's going on. That's not necessarily criticism of the book. It may just be more so my perception, or maybe good for you to know if your style is similar to mine. But I liked parts of it, but I'm gonna have to read it again to fully grasp what's going on. Let me tell you what I did like. So the premise, it's obviously it's a cyberspace world. Again, I'm a little fuzzy on the world, so I can't tell you a lot about that. I mean, okay, well I know I was going to tell you what I did like. I do think here's the one thing I didn't like. There wasn't a lot of exposition. There wasn't a lot of like here's how this world is like, and some people say that's good. I mean, you want to avoid the info dump. Too much exposition is also a problem. You don't want your first several chapters to be like, here's what happened in the past, and or just heavy narration or anything. So the writer definitely avoids that. He's a very direct writer, very in the moment, maybe almost Hemingway esque there. He doesn't really describe things in detail. He just kind of tells them plainly as they are. Um, and some people like that, and sometimes it works. For me personally, when getting into a new world, I felt like I could have used a little more description, a little more exposition to help me figure out what's going on. So yes, this is a world where people go into cyberspace, and that's a thing. Um, I honestly can't tell you a lot about how it's different from other cyberspace works, or the unique rules of how cyberspace works in this book, just because I either it wasn't fleshed out or I didn't pick up on it. I'm gonna say more so. I didn't pick up on it rather than it wasn't fleshed out because I know this is a seminal work of the genre. I know many people have studied this more deeply than I have, and so yeah, it's so I think it is probably more so my perception than anything, or just me not being familiar with the world. But yeah, it took me a while to get acclimated to it. I know it's a world where cyberspace exists, but besides that, I was like, what's going on? It didn't help also that, and this isn't about the book. This is just me personally. I've been on some different sleep meds, trying to figure out my sleep issues. And this past little while, I was on a med that seemed to be making me fall asleep more often than usual. I was trying to read at nighttime, and I kept falling asleep while trying to read this. Again, not a criticism of the book, just my circumstances didn't help me really to get acclimated to the book. That I was having sleep issues. Not the author's fault, of course, just one of those things. So I would need to read it again with a clearer mind and a more focus, probably maybe in a few years. I don't know, to fully understand it. Okay, well I did like I said, it's cyberspace, but there were some familiar elements too. So the main character, his name is Case, or that's his last name actually, but he goes by Case throughout the whole book. And he is like, I guess, a smuggler or a cyberspace pirate, or I forget what the term they actually use, hacker basically. But I mean, in this world, it's more than that because you can actually like go inside cyberspace rather than just like hacking from a computer, I guess. So he's like this kind of, I guess, down on his luck criminal. They explain it first. Okay, there is a little exposition at the beginning. He has stolen from his employer in the past, and because of that, his employer punished him by, again, I'm not certain how the technology works, but by somehow limiting Case's ability to get into cyberspace. But of course, someone else approaches him with a new job and basically is like, hey, if you help us out, we can help you out. We can help you get back to where you were, fix what's wrong with you and give you everything you wanted and restore what's been lost and give you maybe the big score you've always wanted. So that's all in the first 3 chapters, and I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. So basically, what I'm saying, what I did like, even in this world of cyberspace, with new rules and new technologies, there is some familiarity there. At its core, the story is a heist. I mean, it's more than that. I'd say, obviously, every heist has twists and turns, and there's usually characters' emotional drama and the emotional depth going on underneath that, and of course there is the world and the technology to deal with too. But at its core, one familiar thing in the story was a heist. So even in the opening, I'm getting some familiar vibes of like Han Solo, the smuggler who's made a bad turn with his employer, and he's kind of running from them and trying down on his luck, trying to stay alive, looking for his next big score, also looking to settle his debts. So like that feels familiar to me. I also, I mean, maybe this is just me because I did my thesis years ago on The Great Gatsby partially, and that's one of my favorite books. I find parallels to everything. I've been told I find parallels to everything with the Roaring Twenties, whether it's there or not. But I was getting the sense of kind of this collective trauma that the characters have been through, and now they're just kind of like numbing their pain with drink and with partying and with just kind of moving on to the next big thing. So yeah, he's this guy. He's this smuggler, hacker, pirate, whatever you want to call him. Down on his luck, washed up, maybe hanging out in bars. In the beginning, you can tell he's trying to drink his troubles away, and things like that. So I'm like, even if I didn't understand the whole story, the whole picture, there were some familiar elements there. We can call them tropes. I know that word has a negative connotation, but in this case, I think they were helpful to me because in a world that was unfamiliar, I had at least a few familiar things to latch on to. I did latch on to the protagonist Case. He was familiar in some ways to other protagonists. I latched on to the central plot or conflict. I was like, it's a heist. It's a down on his luck smuggler guy who's been through some stuff. It's a heist. He's trying to get back what he lost. He's trying to make a bigger score, that kind of thing. So I was able to latch on to those elements. I liked it for those. I enjoyed those parts of the story. Once again, I mean, in the middle of the book, that was all in the beginning. In the middle of the book, the twists and turns and the technology, I know I missed some stuff. I know there were parts I zoned out. I know there were parts where I didn't know what was happening. He does use some terminology that is either very specified to the genre or maybe just to his world that I didn't know what it was. So so there's some things that I'm like, maybe I missed it, or maybe I'm just not familiar with with what that is in real life. But I'm like, I didn't like he says some things, and I'm like, I can kind of get what's going on, but I don't know what that means, or I don't know what everything is there. Um, there's AIs, there's artificial intelligences are a big part of the plot. There's like jacking in and out of cyberspace. This is actually written in the '80s, so it's before the internet, or at least before the internet was nearly as widespread as it is now. So it's kind of a sci-fi perception of cyberspace, not like logging into a computer like we have now. They say he jacked in or he jacked out of cyberspace, um, but that's kind of it. Like again, he doesn't describe cyberspace a lot. Like at least, or if he did, I kind of missed those parts. It's not like say Ready Player One, where there's a very visual VR world. I mean, even in the book before the movie came out, is a very visual VR world, and of course the pop culture references in that one, and the familiar characters make that fun too. But I feel like that one I got a picture of it, like a description, and like I don't think Gibson ever really described like what cyberspace looks like, how it's different from the real world. He just again, his writing is very plain and direct in some ways. He's just like Case jacked in, he did this, he did that, that happened, he jacked out. Like he doesn't really go into detail about like cyberspace, what's going on there. So again, I could have used a little more world building, a little more help for the unfamiliar reader. Um, so would I recommend it? It's a good question. If hard sci-fi is your thing, like you really thrive on like learning a new world and getting into these hard sci-fi worlds and be like, oh yeah, like this is my jam, then go for it. I'd say you probably have a good time of it. If hard sci-fi is not so much your thing, if you're more of a medium to soft sci-fi person, or you just like the familiar, you might have a hard time with it, like I did. I'd say hard sci-fi fans definitely check it out. Um, just a side note, I did do some cursory reading. I was like on Wikipedia. I mean, I'm not an academia anymore, so I can say that. I'm like, I know cyberpunk is a thing, and I know it's called cyberpunk, or that's the genre. Like, what is the official definition of that? And it said something about like the official genre is often characterized by these high technologies, but low social classes, or like low, people or situations in other ways. So I get that. I was getting that impression. Like, yeah, there's technology, there's cyberspace, there's all these innovations, but you still have the down on his luck smuggler wasting his life away in a bar, kind of this criminal underworld going on. Again, I'm thinking Star Wars, where there's technology and aliens and everything, but there's also plenty of shady characters, criminal underworlds, that kind of thing. Um, so just from that vague description of what cyberpunk is, I'd say this book did well. It combines the low elements of society, which to me are also the familiar elements. It combines those with a hard sci-fi world. I still say the hard sci-fi world was hard for me to get into, and you might have trouble with it unless hard sci-fi is really your thing and you're really into that. So yeah. Anyway, that's my review of Neuromancer. Oh, and I have to say, what will I apply to it for my own writing? I think what he did well that I would try to replicate is having the tropes there in a sci-fi world or in an unfamiliar world. A lot of us are writing speculative fiction of various kinds, myself included. I mean, mine's superheroes, so it takes place in quote unquote the real world, like a world where it's not in space, it's not in a fantasy world. It's a world where cities, normal human cities exist, and superheroes are a popular genre these days. Most people understand them, but if for some reason you didn't, or if there were some unfamiliar elements, it's good to have the familiar elements for your reader to latch on to. So, I mean, even if you have a big fantasy world or a big sci-fi world or something like that, that with a lot of new complicated rules and technology is great if you can explain them. But I would say, one, explain them. Make sure the reader knows what's going on. Two, give the reader something familiar to latch on to. Give them a familiar protagonist, a sympathetic protagonist with a familiar struggle. That will really help them in navigating the ins and outs of your sci-fi world. Anyway, that's my quick little review of Neuromancer by William Gibson. Go check it out if that sounds like your thing. In the meantime, keep writing, keep reading, keep reading and writing, and figuring out what you can apply from your reading to your writing. And have a great weekend. I will see everyone later. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you want more updates from me, or just more content for writers. There's a link in the video description, the Chipper Maker link. Sign up there. You get a free sample of Fractured Heroes, my story, as well as other tips, writing tips, videos I do like this for writers, and things like that. Okay. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.